And at this point, countries are scrambling to avert a regional conflagration amid concerns that the fallout from the Iran-Israel tensions could destabilize countries caught in the crossfire. One such country is Jordan. It borders Syria and Iraq in the north. Israel is also right next door. So is the Israeli-occupied West Bank. Saudi Arabia is at its southeast border. And as you can see from the map, Jordan finds itself in a unique position with an array of security concerns. You see, Jordan has often been called the island of stability in a sea of chaos. It is a key strategic partner for the United Nations. It welcomes refugees with open arms, even when other countries have hit their limit. It works with other countries in ensuring regional stability. Most importantly, it is a major regional ally of the US. American troops are based there. They carry out extensive exercises with the Jordanian army throughout the year. And due to its geographic location, Jordan always finds itself caught in the precarious position amid regional tensions. Experts are worried that Iran-backed proxies that are operating out of Jordan's neighboring countries could seriously threaten the country's stability. They say there is an increased risk of radicalized individuals and groups operating within Jordan's borders to get inspired by the violence and seek to carry out attacks against both Jordanian and American interests. Since the Gaza war started 6 months ago, over 160 attacks on American troops have been reported in Syria and Iraq, both countries neighboring Jordan. These groups, like the Iraq-based Al-Hashid al-Shabi, have reportedly also been involved in smuggling weapons and drugs, along with other illicit activities across the border. The influx of arms and drugs not only threatening to destabilize Jordan, they also pose a direct threat to regional security. And then in January this year, 3 US Army soldiers were killed, more than 30 service members were injured when Iran-backed groups launched an overnight drone attack from Iraq into Jordan. It was the first time that US troops were killed by enemy fire in West Asia since the beginning of the Gaza war. The attack served as a sobering example of the very real and immediate threat posed by these non-state actors. But Jordan is facing challenges within its borders as well. Recently, the overall perception of stability in Jordan has also been somewhat shaken. Its economy is struggling. There is high youth unemployment. And then there are repressive freedom of expression laws. New public opinion insights showing that disagreement over the Gaza war could also pose challenges for Jordan. According to surveys, in fact, Arabs are split on Jordan's response to the war, but are in a near consensus in opposing Jordan's recognition of Israel. Notably, a majority of the people also view the US as the biggest threat to peace and stability within the region, followed by Israel. What's more, the country faces significant challenges from the ongoing Syrian crisis, the deadlock in the Israel-Palestine conflict, and the rise of radicalism in West Asia as a result of economic and political factors. Long story short, there is a lot at stake here for Jordan. The country is facing challenges that could be worsened by any spillover from the Israel-Hamas war, consistently finding itself caught between regional threats, coupled with the socio-economic pressures it faces within. Jordan's leadership has been vocal in calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. Still, when Iran launched those drones and missiles at Israel, the Jordanian Air Force stepped in to help Israel. And in the aftermath, Jordan opened up its airspace to Israeli and American planes. They also apparently shot down drones that violated its own airspace. And this was a surprising move from Jordan. Why, you ask? Because number one, Jordan has been highly critical of Israel's military campaign in Gaza. Number two, 1 in 5 people in Jordan are of Palestinian descent, including the country's own queen. Number three, over the past few weeks, there have been increasingly aggressive protests in Jordan against Israel. So when Jordan came to Israel's rescue, the world was surprised. Now, you may be wondering why Jordan appeared to help Israel, and the answer is simple: to protect itself. It faces a tough balancing act. On one hand, Jordan has its stand on the Gaza war. On the other hand, it has its strategic friendship with the US. The Jordanian leadership has to find a way to balance all of these competing interests in order to defend and protect itself from the regional configuration. Jordan has admitted this, in fact. It was quick to say that in helping Israel, it was actually defending itself. It also wants to show the US that it is a good partner. After all, the country is a beneficiary of significant military and economic assistance from America. So while Jordan's response was a surprise, experts say it is not a fundamental shift in their stand. It is deeply rooted more in the country's necessities rather than in a diplomatic stance. But what about the Israeli hostages still in Gaza? Amid the escalating tensions between Israel and Iran, Hamas has proposed a new ceasefire deal with Israel. After rejecting last week's US-mediated truce deal, Hamas has demanded permanent ceasefire in Gaza. Handing its new proposal to mediators in Egypt and Qatar, Hamas has said that any agreement must end Israel's war in Gaza. Here's what they propose: a three-phase process. The first phase would require Israel to end the war. No hostages would be freed in those first 6 weeks. They would be freed over the second and third phases, with each phase lasting 6 weeks. In exchange, Israel will have to free Palestinians who are in prison. This is what Hamas wants for peace to return, and their demands far more than those put forward by the US-coordinated mediators last week. And it does not even end there. Hamas has demanded that in the initial phase of this potential truce deal, it would see displaced Palestinians return unimpeded to northern Gaza. It would require Israeli soldiers, the IDF, to also withdraw from all urban centers in Gaza. So what happens to the Israeli hostages is the question that remains. Does Hamas have all the Israeli hostages? Because until last week, Hamas told the truce mediators that it is currently not able to identify and locate them. And if that's true, where are they? Hamas claims that it would use the initial 6-week phase of this potential truce deal to locate all the hostages and ascertain their condition. They are believed to be still holding 129 of the 253 hostages that were abducted on the 7th of October. There are doubts about how many of the remaining hostages are even alive. And under its new proposal, Hamas would release elderly and sick hostages. Women and female soldiers would be released in the second phase. Meanwhile, Hamas is demanding the release of 30 Palestinian security prisoners for each civilian Israeli hostage released. This is a 10-fold increase from the 3 security prisoners who were freed from each civilian hostage in the last deal in November 2023. Many of the demands laid out by Hamas in its previous proposals have been rejected by Israel as non-starters. For Israel, a permanent ceasefire and the withdrawal of Israeli troops from the entire Gaza Strip is not on the cards. Israel has said, in fact, it intends to resume the war once any hostage deal is carried out. Remember, Israel's 2 prime war goals are declared. Number 1, securing the freedom of all hostages. Number 2, destroying Hamas's military and governance capabilities in Gaza. Will Hamas's new proposal put the ceasefire talks in more jeopardy? We will have to wait and watch. And joining me at this point on the broadcast to get us the latest from on the ground is our correspondent Jody Cohen. She was in Tel Aviv all of today talking to the families of the hostages. Jody, thanks very much for being here. Where do you think these rising tensions really leave the hostage crisis?
Hi, Molly. So if you mean in terms of rising tensions, the hostage negotiations, Hamas has rejected the latest proposal for a temporary ceasefire and return of 40 of the 133 hostages. Hamas, as you said, they've reiterated for the third time, perhaps, some of their initial demands, which Israel has called delusional. But negotiations at this stage are expected to continue. We haven't heard otherwise. But if you mean by rising tensions, Iran's attack on Saturday night, in which it fired 320 projectiles towards Israel, then the focus of the Israeli government has certainly turned to that and the question of how Israel would respond. Now, David Mencer, Israeli government spokesperson, gave a statement on Monday, and he said that Iran runs Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis and militias in Iraq, and that Iran orchestrated Hamas's 7th of October massacre of Israelis. A Saudi official has reportedly told Israeli media that the Saudis also believe that Iran was behind Hamas's attack and the taking of hostages. So this suggests potentially that Israel might see putting pressure on Iran as a way to put pressure on Hamas to release the hostages.
Right. So, Jody, is there really a plan to bring the hostages home? What more can you tell us about the efforts that are being made at this point? What is your assessment? And you were talking to those families all day. Tell us more about what they told you.
Right. So in Hostages Square, it's an opportunity for people to meet with the families or friends of some of the hostages. I've been going there over the past 6 months. I was there again today, and the feeling is very much that time is running out for the hostages who've been in Gaza for 192 days now. They were saying, most of them, that the hostages need to be the government's top priority. As far as I can see it, there are 4 strategies that the Israeli government could take to get the hostages home. There's the hostage negotiations, there's pressure on Iran, pressure on Hamas, or perhaps a rescue operation, which would be difficult with Hamas's tunnels and the battalions left in Rafah. We don't know what was discussed in Sunday's war cabinet meeting, but if you look at Mencer's statement, he said that even under attack from Iran, Israel has not lost sight of the goals, which, as you said, are to rescue the hostages and destroy Hamas. That includes, he said, targeting the last 4 Hamas battalions in Rafah. And he said this before highlighting that Hamas had rejected the latest deal proposal. The government has said repeatedly that it believes that military pressure is what will lead Hamas ultimately to agree to a reasonable deal. They said that's what happened last time. But reports in the Israeli media are suggesting perhaps that Israel might have delayed an operation in Rafah. This has been denied by the Prime Minister's Likud party, and it remains to be seen what Israel's next move will be.
Indeed. We're leaving it there for the moment. Jody, thanks very much for joining us with those updates.
Thank you.
And if that story of hope did not make you smile, if you are still feeling demotivated or sad, you can perhaps take the day off from work tomorrow and take it easy. But this offer is only for those in China, where a company is offering sad leave. You heard that right. Employees of a Chinese supermarket chain can choose to skip office if they are feeling sad. The name of the supermarket chain is Fat Dog Lai, and it is offering its employees 10 sad leaves a year. 10 of them. That's a lot more than some of our special leaves, I'm guessing. What's more, to avail sad leave, employees don't need manager approval. Basically, who cares if your manager does not believe you are sad? If you are sad, you take it easy. Sounds too good to be true, isn't it? We did try looking for a rider or a hidden clause, Turns out there are none. It's a genuine sad leave and a genuine case of an employer focusing on employee well-being. The owner of the supermarket chain is a man called Yu Donglai. He's a hero of sorts in China, in fact, and for all the right reasons. He recently told a news outlet, everyone has days when they are sad. That's human nature. So his employees get 10-day sad leave, over and above 40 days of annual leave and 5 days of holiday during the Chinese New Year period. That's when the supermarket branches remain closed. Also, did I tell you employees of this chain work only 5 days a week and for 7 hours each day? If the customers insult the supermarket employees or threaten them, then the company compensates the employees. They are paid up to 5,000 yuan. That's almost $690 or nearly 58,000 rupees. And this is not the first time WION The World's policies are making headlines. Not too long ago, he announced that Fat Dong Lai would send all employees, and I repeat, all employees, on an all-paid overseas vacation. All the managers are now Europe-bound. The rest of the staff will be going to Japan and Singapore. And there's more. Some reports say the company gives 95% of its profits to employees each year in form of fat paychecks. I guess some of you are already looking for possible job opportunities in that company. There is a good chance they don't hire overseas workers. Does the thought of it make you sad? Well, too bad. And you and I don't have sad leaves. Also, it's only Monday.